All right, something on Ohio State that I have not heard anybody mention. So I'm going to mention it. This is the first time for most of us, because most of us don't remember all the Woody years. But for most of us, now it's been 3 national championships for these guys. This is the first one they've won in a year they were supposed to win one. Think about it. Jim Tressel's national championship season, 2002. They were like 12th in the country when the year started. Nobody picked Ohio State to win a national championship that year. And then the year they won it with Urban, I think they entered the preseason ranked like 5th in the country, which at that point, of course, you're in striking distance. But nobody was saying that's one of the best 1 or 2 teams in the country. They have to win the national championship this year. It's kind of a disappointing season. This year, I mean, I just checked. I couldn't remember if we started 1 or 2. They started 2 in the AP. They had some first place votes. And most people felt Ohio State was one of the top 1 or 2 teams in the country. And they really should win a national championship this year. And this is the first time I remember them. That's the first time they did it. They won the title in a year they were supposed to. The others came like a year or 2 early. The Urban Meyer one, they were supposed to win it the next year and probably should have if he just ran the ball with Zeke against Michigan State, and he didn't. They could have gone back-to-back. But the 2014 team that won it, they kind of arrived a year early. And the Tressel year that they were supposed to win it was the year they had the game of the century against Michigan, and then they got their doors blown off against Florida in the title game. They didn't win it. This is the first time we've seen Ohio State win it in a year they were actually supposed to win it. So, you're going to rip Ryan Day for losing to Michigan, and frankly, yeah, that's fair criticism. But give him credit for getting the ship where it needed to be at the end of the year. That was an incredibly fast turnaround job with this team. Congratulations to the Buckeyes. Congratulations to the great state of Ohio. I love this state. Figure out the Michigan thing, Ryan. We're tired of this. Also, cool news coming in tonight. It's Tuesday, the 21st. CC Sabathia goes to the Hall of Fame. First ballot Hall of Famer. CC is one of my absolute all-time favorite athletes I've ever covered. Easily top 5, maybe in the top 3 athletes I've ever covered. He might be my favorite one, actually. There's 2 things about CC that I'll always remember. Aside from off the field stuff. On the field stuff, his pitching, I could go on and on about. But off the field stuff, one, he's just such a real normal guy. Like, he was the same guy in his rookie year as he was as a hardened veteran, as he was on the Zoom call tonight with us from the Hall, or about the news getting into the Hall. He was the same guy. He never changed. Nothing went to his head. He never got arrogant. He would talk to you the same way. He carried himself the same way. He was the same guy. And not everyone does that. Some can, some can't. He did. The other thing about him I'll never forget, and he was so good at this, and he never got enough credit about this, I thought. His free agency was obviously a huge news story. For the run-up to that was 2 years. His last year here, he was under contract, was 2007. He signed with New York in the offseason between 07 and 08. So, remember, at this point, the Indians, and I can call them that because they were the Indians then, the Indians had lost Ramirez and they had lost Tomey. And at the time, they had 3 free agents coming up. They had CC, they had Travis Hafner, and Jake Westbrook, who was going to get some money, and so was Hafner, and obviously... All right, look, Sabathia was going to require the largest pitching contract in baseball history. Nobody thought the Indians would sign him. The news back here was, will they be able to keep any of these 3? They kept 2 of the 3. They kept Hafner, they kept Westbrook. But CC, knowing where this was going to go, never, ever, ever acted like he had 1 foot out the door. He never said anything that would make you believe it was his last season there. And he also never made any false promises. And there were windows where they would talk contract extension with him, and then those windows would close. But the last window was the off season before the 2007 season, his final year under the contract. I remember there came a day in spring training where they basically was an announcement, yeah, we're done talking contract now, and it's time to focus on the season. And anyone can read between the lines there and realize, okay, then it's done. He's not extending here. It's not going to happen because he's going to be a free agent, and they won't be able to keep him because they can't compete with the Yankees. And so we went into the locker room, the clubhouse in Winter Haven. It was still spring training. And I remember where we were standing in his locker, and people, one of the questions was something like, hey, what do you say to the folks, the fans that now feel like this is it, you're gone? And he'd say something like, look, nobody knows what's going to happen. Who knows? We're going to pitch this year. We're going to play this year. He was saying this kind of stuff. He was certainly careful to not lead people along. He didn't lead anyone along with those comments. But he also didn't say anything like, yeah, this is probably it. And that's a fine line for some athletes to walk. And some are not good at it. We've had guys here that were not good at it, that tried to say right things and didn't. And it turned into like false promises and just, they didn't handle it well. And Sabathia handled it perfectly. And that, I think, goes back to the first point I made about him. He's just such a normal guy. And I always appreciated how genuine he was and how honest he was about that and about everything. And I just, hats off to him. One of the favorite guys I've ever covered. Easily top 3 on my list, all-time favorite athletes I've ever covered. So that was good to see. Sabathia to the Hall. He's going in as a Yankee. He wanted to go in as a Yankee. He was there longer. He was. And that's what really sucks about baseball situation when clubs like the Indians can't keep these guys. You're going to have a hard time getting them to put on your cap when you go to the Hall of Fame. He was there a long time, and he wanted to go in as a Yankee, and you can't hold that against him. You can't hold that against him. Again, he didn't say anything bad about Cleveland. He actually said like the biggest influence on his career was Carl Willis, the pitching coach here in Cleveland, who obviously had his first stint when Sabathia was here and now back again. Carl, by the way, goodness, he's had some Cy Youngs, man. He's coached at least 3. CC, Cliff Lee, Bieber, and I don't think he was here for one of Kluber's. I think those are all Mickey. But, I mean, Carl, man, he's going down as one of the best pitching coaches in the last 20, 30 years if you're looking at the guys he's coached. So I know he's having a great night. He's happy as heck. But big night for Sabathia. Big day for the state of Ohio. That's awesome. And we'll enjoy this. We'll put this one to bed with the Buckeyes and everything. And then it is full focus on the Cleveland Cavaliers as they hopefully make a title run here.